So hello there, this is Dimitrios Christou, and this time around we're going to talk a bit about the dailies. Now I was watching the blog yesterday actually, and found out that I pretty much remember how I built most of them. So I thought it would be a nice idea to share the techniques behind the dailies with you, and I'm going to start from the first images. Now, we won't go through the scenes or through specific techniques like extruding and placing materials and all, but I think there are a few tricks or things to learn here while I'll be explaining the images, the files here, and we also get the chance to see the images in full size. So I really hope you like it. We're just going to talk. So feel free to take a cup of tea or some coffee, sit back, relax and enjoy. Now this is the first image and I'm using my good old Pencil Pro here, simply because it has a nice feature that allows us to click here on the view and the full screen preview. So now we can easily focus on the image and actually see it in real size. So there is a detailed video tutorial about this image on my YouTube channel and on my Blender Video Tutorials blog over at blendbed.blogspot.com. Now about my Blender video tutorials, I'm getting a few questions about my dailies. And there is a thing I can tell you, that if you're interested in the techniques I use to build the dailies, then the better thing to do is to watch my Blender video tutorials. Even if the Blender video tutorial don't cover the dailies. If you watch my Blender video tutorials, you'll see the way I work, you'll see the way I use the modifiers, the way I combine the modifiers to create a specific result. So watching my Blender video tutorials is clearly the way to understand the way I work, and it's clearly the way of understanding how I put together the daily. So if you want to dig into creating abstract stuff in Blender, then you should definitely check the video tutorials. And now this is the first image. I'm going to minimize it. Okay. And let's see which one is the second. Okay, we have the alpha image here. Let's find it. Yep, that's the one. And what happens here is that Cycles does all the work for us. Let's see it in full screen. Now this is a simple Cycle scene, and as I said before, Cycle does the entire trick. You can see that we're having the nice little rim here. You can see it right here, and this use emit material, and we have an alpha object. This is a simple text, and you can't actually see it, but I'm having the text here duplicated and some modifiers applied to it, so that we're also getting some sort of depth for the scene. Also, the scene uses compositing. You can see that we have the ghost glare node here to make everything look nice. Simple scene again. Okay, let's see which one is the next one. Moving back to the blog. Alright. And we're having the samsara file. Now this image, sadly I can't seem to find it on my hard drive. Perhaps I have to render it again. But this is actually a simple array job. We have a cube which is arrayed on the z-axis, say on the z-axis, and then some simple deform that bends the array, and the array again uses another array to move back to add some depth to the scene. Now in the center of it all I have a very bright sphere with some emission on it, and the sphere here illuminates the array and also helps us create this nice little effect in Blender compositing. Again, a nice simple scene put together in Blender. Now the next one is the sky is the limit image. I'm going to find it. Okay, let's take a good look. View, full screen preview. Alright. Now what we're having here is the CG text on top, and then the CG text is actually cloned and moved down, and then modifiers are applied on it. If I'm not mistaken, I have applied the remesh modifier on, let's see, I have applied the remesh modifier here, and then I've also created another duplicate, and I've also added the wire modifier. And again, another duplicate below right here, and the remesh modifier is used again with different settings, and then we're getting this nice little result here. Now the cranes here, the construction cranes here, are taken from BlendSwap. There are CC0 files, and I'm usually, well, actually pretty much always use CC0 files for the dailies. Since I upload those images on my blog, I upload those images on Blender Artist, and I also upload them on my profiles, iStock Photo, Bond 5, etc. So it's pretty hard for me to give credit for every single time I upload the image. So usually, if not always, I use CC0 files from BlendSwap on my dailies. Now that's the technique behind this file, and again we have the text and it's being copied, moved down, and then modifiers are using it to create this nice little effect here. Let's minimize this one as well, and let's also move to the blog to see the next one. We have this one. Oh, 5, okay. 5, 6, okay, 7. I used to love you, that's the one. Now this file right here is pretty nice. This file uses an SVG file, and the SVG file was found in a Pixabay, and I took the SVG file, imported it into Blender, and then took the curve that occurred from the SVG file and made it 3D, and then add some depth to the curve file. And again, copying the SVG file below, and then adding some modifiers to create this stacking here, as you can see. Now, this is also a nice file. The top SVG file, SVG curve, uses emission, and it gives the scene the light. I was planning to use more tapes for this one, but it looks pretty nice as it is. Okay, I'll also minimize this one. Let's move on to the next one, back to the blog. We have the tape 7, 8, and let's find which one is the 9. This is a Cinema 4D file, and this is the 10th. Okay. This file right here, there's also a video tutorial about creating a nice object using extrusions, and you will again find this one on my Blender video tutorials blog and on my YouTube channel. Now this one actually uses Blender Render, and I've set the bounces for the ambient occlusion pretty high, and it creates a pretty decent result in terms of the objects emitting light. As I said before, feel free to check the video tutorial on creating some nice, crazy extruded objects in Blender. Alright, pretty nice. I'll also minimize this one. Let's move over to the next one. Back to the blog. Here. Now let's find the next one. This is 10, this is 11. Alright. There is also a video tutorial about this file in my Blender video tutorials and on my Blender blog over at blendbend.blogspot.com. Feel free to check the blog or the YouTube channel for a video tutorial about this. And this is pretty much some arrays on arrays and on arrays and all that. Pretty nice file, and again, Cycles Render does the trick for us and it looks pretty interesting. Now let's take a look. We have this one. This is a numbers file. Let's also find it here. Okay, we can find it here. Let's check it at about here. And these are curves actually, and the curves are well, actually a lot of curves, and they're placed one on top of the other. And each object was put together in layers and then created a group, and then brought all the groups on the first layer and then added the top number parts, and the top number parts also use some emission to illuminate the scene. Okay. 12, let's find 13. Okay, and we have 13 and 14. We're going to check those two to wrap it up, and perhaps this one as well. Okay, let's check the broken blue. Okay, and this is the image of a file. Now this also uses Blender internal, and building this one is very simple as well. What we're actually having here is an array of cylinders, an array of very tall cylinders actually, and the cylinders are also subdivided on the z-axis lots of times. Now we have array on the x and y-axis, and then I'm also using a cast modifier, and the cast modifier is put at the middle of the cylinders, and it creates this nice little opening for me to put my camera. Now, once done, I display the cylinders and then I use a subdivision surface of them to create this nice smooth effect. And then I'm duplicating the cylinders and creating a copy of the scenes of the object, and then use it with wireframe to create this nice little effect right here. Finally, particle system is what adds to the scene and makes it pretty interesting. Now let's see this one, and this is pretty close to the one before. Let's take a good look. Now this also used cylinders, but it uses them horizontally. Their cylinders are placed horizontally, and we have them right here. And I'm actually using an array on the x-axis to clone the tiny bit of cylinder on the x-axis so that I'm having some detail to use, and then I'm using displace modifier to create the variation here on the objects. We have an array on the x and array on the y-axis for the depth. And then I'm also using a nice little cycles material to color the objects. And again, a particle system. And this one looks pretty interesting. Now I'm going to wrap it up with this one. And this is a pretty interesting file as well. So this right here is actually a fluid simulation. I'm having the domain. You can see the domain right here, the edge of the domain, and I'm dropping the fluid from 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and I'm rotating these points as time goes by, and the fluid falls down and it creates that nice interesting effect. Then the result of the fluid simulation is using Remus modifier, and the Remus modifier is what creates these nice little blocks here. And again, I'm duplicating the object and using a wireframe modifier to create this nice overlapping effect on them. Then a plane is put with some reflection on it, and it looks pretty much like water. So this is it. These are a first few files of the Graphics Daily blogspot.com blog. Now, if you like the idea of me sharing some of my techniques for the files, feel free to comment below. Also, if you want some specific files to be used here or to be seen here and explained by me, feel free to comment again. Hope you like it, hope you've learned a thing or two about the dailies. I'm having lots of fun putting them together. So this is Dimitris Christou. I'll be back with another video on the Graphics Daily, and thanks for watching.